Today I wanted to talk about root cellars. We have an unfinished room in our basement, and we don't heat our basement, so we use our room that's off of our laundry room that has our water heater in it as our root cellar, because it already has pantry shelves in it and has a cement floor, and during the winter it stays probably about 42 degrees in there, so it's just like a refrigerator. It's perfect. So what we do is we do not store apples and potatoes and onions together. They off-gas as they age, and they can cause over-ripening in one and bad smells and bad taste in another. So we don't store those together. We use that particular room just for potatoes and for canned goods. And when we store potatoes, we do not store them in potato boxes that we either harvest them in or buy them in. We don't buy potatoes from the grocery store, and we don't buy them from the plants, from the potato storage houses, because they have sprayed them with sprout nip. And when you spray it with sprout nip, it makes it so that the potato won't sprout. Well, when the potato can't sprout, it's dead food. It can't, because it can't sprout, it just rots. So we had that happen a lot. We had one year where we tried to buy it in bulk in boxes from a potato warehouse, and everything just rotted. It was so disgusting and it smelled so bad. The much healthier thing to do is that later in the year, like in April, your potatoes will start to sprout, and that's normal. If you don't allow them to sprout, they just rot. So what we do is we take them from whatever we picked them in. We have friends that grow potatoes, and they do a really good job, and then we have a potato pick out here where we live, where the local, the head of our local church is a farmer, and he has about 5 acres that he sets aside out of his acreage that he plants the potatoes for people in his congregation, and not just in the congregation, but just in the area, to come and glean their own potatoes. It's like Ruth and Boaz, where the poor were allowed to glean after the major harvest had been done. They would come and glean, and that it was allowed that was the way that they gave charity. And so this wonderful man does the same thing, except he actually goes out and he takes his potato digger across it, so they're already dug up, and he just lets us walk behind and pick them. And we could buy our own potatoes. In fact, we still buy some potatoes, but it's like, we use it as like fodder for pigs and stuff like that. If we start to get low on other feed. Anyway, and we put it in peach boxes. Peach boxes have better ventilation holes in them, and they're shallower. And then we just make sure that room stays closed most of the time. And we have very little rot with those potatoes, but I still go in at least every couple of months, and I pull out anything that has sprouted, anything that has molded. You still want to pull that out, and you just sort through everything, and anything that has gone bad, I just throw it to the chickens. And if they don't eat it, fine. If they do eat it, fine. It just doesn't matter. So this year we bought 100 pounds of onions. Now, if everybody's like, wait a minute, she's supposed to be homesteading, why is she buying all this food? When we got here, we had rocks instead of even topsoil, because our neighbor had let his horses out on the property that we bought, and it had been empty for 15 years, and they'd actually eaten the topsoil. He hadn't been feeding them, and so they ate the topsoil. There was no grass, there was no trees, there was no weeds. We didn't even have weeds. We had some really weird moss that grew in some places. And so for the first 3 years that we've been here, I have been planting about 150 trees a year and then keeping them watered. And I have had small gardens. And they have fed us, but they haven't fed us all the way, because there hasn't been enough of me to keep fruit trees going, and a garden, and shade trees, and animals. So that's why some of our food is bought. But we don't buy packaged food. We buy just whole form food. So, at least every 2 months. It's probably better with things like onions and garlic and apples to go and check on them about every 2 weeks. And just pull out the bad ones, feed them to your pig, feed them to your chickens. If you have a compost pile, put them in your compost pile. The better thing to do, and what I'm going to do today, is I have all these onions, and I'm just going to cut them up and freeze them. You can put them in a dehydrator, but then your whole house stinks, and it'll make everybody's eyes water and everything. So I'm just going to take the good parts of these, and I'm going to cut them up and freeze them. And you can't really do that with potatoes. As long as they're not too far gone and they just have a spot in them, you can cook them for your pig. And with apples, chickens will eat them. You can put these in nylons, and it seems to keep them good longer. But you're just going to have some waste, and you might as well save what you can off of it and feed the rest of your animals. And there we go, root cellar. At least root cellaring the way we do it.